What's up, my beautiful black geniuses? Welcome to the Black Wealth Project. My name is Kamari Ellis. I am 1/6 of the Black Wealth team. I'm your host for tonight, and tonight we've got a hot one for you. Tonight we are talking about the benefits of gentrification. That's right, you heard me. The benefits of gentrification. So as everybody starts to check in, do me a favor. Let us know where you're hailing from. Tell us your name and tell us your thoughts on gentrification. So as we talk to the superhero team, the super financial team, how is everybody doing today?
We all good, man. But before we do start, I would like to publicly apologize to the Peloton gang. I put it out there. I got my treadmill working. This joint is half trash. I really want to send it back right now.
But I saw you said you was too cheap. You said you was too cheap to buy Peloton.
Hey, listen, but I'd rather pay for when it actually work.
Yeah, it's like paying for trash contractors. When you pay, when you half step on the thing, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, and listen, it had so many great reviews though, man. I mean, the reviews.
You listening to the mayo color people.
It's 2020, dog. It's 2020, man. Those reviews is probably paid for, man.
Exactly. Courtney, you ain't got nothing on this. You ain't gonna pile up.
Well, we cooked him on IG. Me and Courtney got him on IG, so he heard these bars, man.
Oh, he got the bars.
We laughed at him online, so I don't know what else to say.
No, listen, I was like, you know what? It got all these good reviews. If it go out fast, it's cool. I could buy 3 of them. Somebody buy 1 Peloton. It was like $1,500. But no, it's on the pro form. It's not at all a good look. I really regret buying it.
All right, so here's the question: have you put your order on with Peloton yet? And what is your delivery date?
So I have not put my order on Peloton. I'm going to use this for a while because I don't want to pay the restock fee, all that crap. I'll use it for a while. You know, plus, I want to make sure that I'm committed first. I don't want to spend 5 racks and quit. Let me spend $1,500.
Yo,
5 racks, you'll be committed.
Yo, hold on. What's the name of the garbage you got, man? Did them shits even got letters?
It's a pro form. It's a pro form.
Pro forma.
It's a who?
Pro forma.
What is that?
What's your net operating income?
Exactly what it is.
I mean, you said pro
That
forma.
sounds like some bobos.
Hey Jimmy.
Yo,
he thought he got the 4.6, but he really got the 4.
Yeah, he got the 4.0, dog.
Listen, it had thousands of good reviews, and
so did
them joints all from China.
They from all Russian reviews, dog.
He got that joint from Wish.
You know these rules already, Malik.
I'm gonna use it though. Listen, you know what? The reason why I want to pay that real fast is because I was speaking in the room where Stevie Wonder was speaking, and he said he uses right. No, listen, he uses his equipment. He doesn't have like the newest flyer stuff. And what he said it's not the toys, it's the noise. And then like, oh, okay, I get that. But this right here is the toys. It's the toys. I'm like, you know what? If I use it, it'll work.
Okay. All right. Well, let's check in with our folks.
Did y'all hear that stunt though?
What's that?
Did you hear the stunt though? The stunt he just like. All right, make sure I was the only one that heard it.
A stunt. Yeah. It was an attempt at a stunt, but it was.
It was a fact of the matter.
Okay. All right. So shout out to Fally from Maine. How you doing, brother?
Yo.
Hey, Adrian. How you doing? Yes, Corey is in the house. He's not in the office. He's working remotely today. All right. The bots wrote those reviews.
Yes, Monica. Yes.
Listen, the Forex bots, the crypto bots, they are like an extra effect.
Yeah, the Forex bots about to ruin IG, period, single-handedly.
Well, and Facebook, because they are inboxing me on Facebook and on IG. Matter of fact, they're getting on my lives now.
No, and now they texting me now. They texted me the other day.
Oh, God.
I mean, are they worse than the election people though?
The election people are going to stop. They'll be over on Tuesday.
I hope so. I can't wait till Tuesday. Not even for the election, just for that.
Hey, Tiffany.
Hey, Tiffany.
The child's in the building.
Shout out.
Welcome. Monica, happy Sunday to you.
Happy Sunday.
Yvette, how you doing? Wanda, how are you? Monica said spending 5 racks on the Peloton made me committed. 133 days in a row and counting.
I know that's right.
I know that's right. Angela, hey, from the A, how you doing?
Hey.
Hey, Katisa, from the
North
Carolina. Pro Form is a Chinese store off brand. It came with a 3-wing and fried rice platter.
Salt, pepper, ketchup.
Yeah, Jim, you took it from me, Jimmy. I was about to say SPG.
Yes, fry hard, cut the retarded leg off.
Right.
Dwight, what's up, family?
Yes, James. How you doing, James? The election people are the worst.
Oh my God.
Man, I'm like, y'all texting the wrong people. I vote. What's up, Kahan?
What's going on, Kahan?
All right, so listen, everybody. Today's topic is the benefits of gentrification. If you have some benefits of gentrification, put them in the comments. If you don't have any benefits of gentrification, put those in the comments too. We want to hear what you think. But as we get going to our next segment, it is the BOB of the week, or the Black-owned business of the week. So we're really interested what Malik has this week. What you got, Malik?
Yeah, man. So the only streetwear designer that make me want to spend money, man, is Devlin Carter. His brand. He has 2 brands, but the one in particular is Somewhere in America. His everything he does is custom made. Kamar, you get the site up?
It's coming.
Okay. Everything he does is custom made. It's only available on his Instagram, nowhere else in the world. And his stuff sells out in less than a minute. He brings out one new item normally every Saturday at 10 o'clock Western time in the Pacific. And in a minute or 2 minutes, it's normally sold out. And he doesn't typically bring things back, but now he's letting people do pre-orders. And he has a Halloween pack. If you scroll up, it might be sold out. But if you look up the second one, right there, the Freddy, this is Halloween pack. He did one for Freddy versus Jason. He created this whole style. I mean, he's an amazing designer. And I'm waiting for the ones that I want to come out, and I'm definitely going to try to drop $300 on a pair of his sneakers. Only time I've ever in my life desired to spend more than $140 for a pair of sneakers are these.
So are these Nikes, or are they his own?
No, they're his brand. They're not custom. He created this, and everything he has is even down to the stitch. These are all small batch. He doesn't, like right now, even Nikes. What he told me from watching his video, watching how he makes it, is he cut it open and he showed you how Nikes has cardboard under the pleather. His is 100% leather on the insole. Everything hand stitched, everything hand designed, and he's just an amazing designer. I mean, to the point where he launched 1,000 card memberships. He only allowed 1,000 people to buy it. He charged $150 a piece to be in membership, so you could get some stuff first. And they sold out in minutes. 1,500. I mean, it's 1,000 of them at $150 a piece. That means people want to be on a list to buy his stuff first. I mean, it's just amazing what he's able to do as a Black designer in this space.
Sound like his marketing game is on the bean too.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't spend any money on marketing. Everything he does is 100% Instagram. He doesn't do DMs. His website, he doesn't market at all. It's just people come to him to his Instagram. That's it. Nothing else. The problem with that is he doesn't control, like Erica said on your site, like those aren't his customers, right? He doesn't have his people that order from him, he'll have them, but everybody else. But he has a huge loyal following. And I'm definitely looking forward to a color that I can rock. Okay.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Salutes to him. It's always good to see more Black designers out there. I mean, just more Black business owners in general. Malik, I see you got on your NCCU joint.
NCCU Eagles, North Carolina. Happy homecoming, everybody.
I mean, I got a black designer on. Y'all can see that. Like,
Okay,
Black
I
designer
appreciate
on
that,
too.
man.
you know what I'm
I
saying?
know that's right. I know
My black
that's right.
designer. My black
I need to
designer
fill out a
is
minute. I need to fill out a minute.
Coach Carter designed this right
Making
here.
sure, though,
You know what
man.
I'm saying? Stocks, life insurance, real estate, and
The boy
business.
Jimmy designed this, John.
Yeah, so that's my black designer right here. Coach Carter.
There you go.
I know that's right.
Are we selling
Boy
t-shirts?
Jimmy designed this one right
Oh
here.
yeah.
These and
All right,
dividends.
hold on, y'all. One at a time. So Jimmy did that one. These and dividends.
These
Great.
dividends with that. There you go.
All right. What you got, Tracy? What you got?
Mine is bougie black girl from Very Smart Brothers.
Okay.
Shirt line, super dope. Lots of dope slogans. Love them.
All right, that's dope. That's dope. That's dope. A few more
Not
people.
everybody told me. Nobody told me.
I mean, this wasn't planned.
Malik told you last week. He put you on the game instantly. Right in the chat.
This is by accident.
It really is though.
All right, y'all. So moving right along before we get to our main topic, again, the benefits of gentrification. Let's check in with our people one more time before we get in. Remember, if you are just joining, you're watching the Black Wealth Project. We are live and direct here every week with our town hall meeting at 7 p.m. So make sure you spread the news about us and let everybody know that we are here. And we're talking about big issues, right? The whole show is about talking about Black wealth, Black finance, and how to move up in status. And when I say status, I'm talking about financial power. All right. So Alton's here. How you doing, sir?
What's up, Alton?
Right.
James Possible. Well, we checked in with you already. Niche in this way is absolutely the future, value and quality. Absolutely. All right, Dwight, you gonna chimed in already. So we're gonna save yours to the end. Okay, Gahan said he was featured on the Breakfast Club about a year ago. Okay, I didn't know that. That's dope. Got that Black Powers, Black Wealth hoodie on the way.
Make sure you share that with us, man, because that's a fire hoodie designed by myself.
As soon as you get it, let it put that out there.
Long-term homeowners can benefit from gentrification because, all right, we're going to come back to that too, Monica. We don't want to spoil it. We won't want to spoil it. So I was trying to remember, y'all, as we get into the main topic, who actually suggested this?
The boy, David Ruffin.
David Ruffin suggested this. All right.
Oh, it was David Ruffin.
Okay. So David Ruffin, lead us in prayer, sir. Tell us what your thoughts are about gentrification.
Let the church
say the benefits of gentrification.
So listen, so I do want to lead off with this though. The reason why I'll start with the. How about this? Come back to me in 1 second. 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. All right, Jimmy, what you got on gentrification?
So there's actually a video on the By the Hood YouTube channel. Is actually titled "How to Stop Gentrification." I think everybody should go take a look at that. YouTube.com/bythehood. And the gist of that video talks about the neighborhood life cycle, which in appraisal theory says that every neighborhood, no matter what neighborhood is, goes through different phases. One is growth, the second is stability, then decline, and then revitalization. But within that theory, it says that a neighborhood could stay in the stable phase for as long as possible. And statistically speaking, neighborhoods with high levels of ownership stay in the stability phase longer. I say all that to say this. Ownership is what it all boils down to for me. Now, I know there's other factors, is more context and is a more nuanced conversation, but just generally speaking, if we owned our neighborhoods, a lot of the issues with gentrification we wouldn't have. Now, we're talking about what are the benefits of gentrification. Some of our audience has already chimed in. Values increasing, right? Values increasing. The way our system is set up, the tax money that could go to services, schools, things of that nature. All those come from gentrification. Also, better places to live. When neighborhoods are gentrified, crime goes down. So there's a lot of factors. But if we're not able to participate in that because we have low levels of ownership, then how does it benefit us? And to me, that's where the problem lies. That's where the disconnect is. Because when you think about what gentrification actually is, I mean, it depends upon who you ask when you look at the definition of gentrification. It has a negative connotation to it. But when you talk about revitalizing a neighborhood and bringing it back up to a certain standard, there's nothing inherently bad about that unless certain people are left out and certain people aren't able to benefit from that. And these are the people that may have been there for years upon years. But if you don't own and if you keep losing grandmom's house, then it could be problematic for you. So to me, gentrification leads to a conversation about ownership, right? And which is one of the reasons why we do what we do at By the Hood, right? Is because we want to talk about the idea of ownership and how it can combat gentrification and combat so many other issues that, we talk about week in and week out on this program. But I'll start with that and let everybody else weigh in. I don't want to, take up all the points.
Okay, here we go. Malik, it's on you.
And shout out to Donnie, just posted the video.
Okay, yeah. So my thing is like one, when we're talking about, of course, Philadelphia being a city of neighborhood schools, as the neighborhood change, then a lot of it can't easily exclude our kids from whatever new benefits that are coming to the schools and the programs and the services, right? So it's not until the neighborhood resegregates that we begin to lose those things, and part of it is I had a conversation, with when I used to throw parties, right, in North Carolina. And just real quick, I'm gonna get on. And there was a saying, I didn't create the saying, but the saying was more white, less fight, right? When you think of it in the club space. And that wasn't necessarily true, but definitely more white, less shoot. So the white boys fought a lot, but the violence, right? And then now when you have the blighted crack houses all of a sudden being renovated and there are people in them, then there's going to be less open air drug traffic, less opportunity for people to just randomly shoot, and the police actually come faster, so the people that are in the neighborhood will benefit from a lot of extra services that are provided. As Jimmy said, I do have a lot more, but I'll let the rest of the panel weigh in before I expand.
Got you. Well, before we do that, let's do this real quick because Jimmy made a great point, right? Let's look at the actual definition of gentrification because I see sometimes we use this improperly. All right, so gentrification is the process in which a poor area, as of a city, experiences an influx of middle class or wealthy people who renovate and rebuild homes and businesses, and which often results in an increase in property values and a displacement of earlier, usually poor residents. So, I think it's always good that we get our definition straight, so we're always talking on the same line and got the same understanding. But coming to you next, Corey, what's your thoughts on gentrification?
When you gentrify an area, you also gentrify the businesses in the area, right? So we talk about gentrifying the homes. We got to also talk about gentrifying the businesses within those areas, right? So, my thing is, in the neighborhoods, you can tell when it's gentrified is when either a Whole Foods or a Wegmans show up in your neighborhood or a Wawa, because those stores don't go to places where, it's either a lot of black people, or if there is a lot of black people, those places only open up in low crime areas, right? So you can't, the gentrification also happens to the businesses. So you also have to, and the thing in the definition that people, would get people up in arms is the displacement, right? So there's a lot of benefits as far as, what's happening, but the people that were originally there don't normally benefit. It's normally the people that come after them. And so the benefits are there. It's just not for the people that originally lived there. And so what we have to do is figure a way for those benefits to benefit the people that originally were there, along with those people that come in. Because what gentrification also does is changes culture, because it changes the businesses, and the businesses are part of what creates the culture in those neighborhoods. So when you have neighborhood businesses, when you got mom and pop stores, and those mom and pop stores are people that look just like you, you might got the lady down the street that sell platters, and you might got the your cousin or your friend that does hair, and those are small businesses within that neighborhood that get pushed out when gentrification comes, because white people put raisins in they macaroni salad and stuff like that. So they don't want your soul food. So you got to be really, really careful with the businesses in your neighborhood when it's gentrified. I mean, listen, man, I'm gonna keep it a bean. Y'all know how I get, so
Hey, listen, I'm glad you said it. Somebody need to say it. All right, Courtney, what you got on this? Oh, wait a minute, Courtney's laughing too hard at Corey, so I don't know if she's ready yet.
Don't laugh at me.
I'm
That
ready.
only encourages me.
Are you looking for me?
Yes, ma'am, we looking for you.
but so Corey makes a very good point about changing the businesses of the area, change the culture of the area. And I want to talking about gentrification, when gentrification starts with a decision, it's a decision to look at an area differently. And once that happens, then there's a cascading effect. And I love the fact that, Kamar, you pulled up the definition, because that's exactly where I was going to go. So there's another definition that says the character of a poor urban area changed by wealthier people moving in, improving housing, attracting new businesses, and displacing current inhabitants. So I was like, oof. And I think, the neighborhood wins when you receive, like, a Wegmans is a pretty good supermarket. I like Wegmans. I'll go out of my way for Wegmans. But I think at the same time is that, again, and a lot of the places that I've noticed that are getting supermarkets, I can only speak for the city of Philadelphia, didn't have supermarkets before, at least not on the caliber or the level that they had before. So quality of life does improve. However, to the point of changing the character of businesses, one of the things that gentrification does is increases values. But when you increase values, you don't just increase values of places that are owned, you increase the values of places that are rented. So the rent goes up. So if you're a business and you're renting, to Jimmy's point about ownership, your rent goes up. And if you're not bringing in enough money to make your rent and kind of pay your other expenses, those businesses move out and then new businesses move in. And I started seeing this in 2005 or so in Pittsburgh, and which is on the other side of Pennsylvania. And we were laughing about it, and we were like, yo, when you're gentrified, if you have a vegan soul food shop on the corner and they're selling vegan chitterlings. And I say chitterlings for a reason, because we all call them chitlins, and chitlins are, pork. And we'll just leave chitlins where chitlins are. But that's how you know that you've been gentrified. And we were laughing about it. But at some point, it's not funny anymore, because it's changing the character of the neighborhood. And the thing is that long-term residents are getting displaced. So it's a push and pull. And I think we kind of talked about this before in terms of property values. Property values are directly related to the funding of our schools. Now, we've said this over and over again, and I can't say it enough. Your zip code should not dictate the quality of your education, but it does. And the thing that really frustrates me overall is that the areas that a lot of people kind of look down on, now all of a sudden they're hot. It's like, oh, you live by the sub. Ugh, why would you want to live by the sub? It's like, oh, why? I would love to live by the sub because it's easy for me to get to work. Like, duh, it's been easy to get to work. But, you were looking down on it. And now all of a sudden that it's prime real estate for you, you really don't care about the people who were there, because, again, it's kind of very Christopher Columbus-ish. In a sense, because it's like, oh, look, I found something new. And it's like, no, we've been here. We've been minding our business here. Y'all be blessed. And it's really not fair. And I think looking at the benefits is that you get all of these great things that come in because, we're increasing the average income. But at the same in doing that, we're pushing people out that have been there and have made these areas their home and kind of have, to a certain extent, made it attractive to others. I mean, Black culture makes everything attractive.
Absolutely. Good stuff, Courtney. Tracy, coming to you next, lady.
Okay, so lots of points, excuse me, have been made about gentrification. I think there's some overarching points that are a concern. A lot of people feel like gentrification is bad because it forces displacement. It raises taxes. It fosters a discriminatory behavior by people technically in power of what's going to happen with the structures, the blocks, and everything else that's going on. And I think at the end of the day, everyone needs to really, really set their mind to understand that economic growth is helpful. It's helpful for your community. It's helpful for your property values. It's helpful for your quality of produce that comes into your supermarkets. It's helpful for your school districts. it's helpful on a lot of components. Excuse me. But you have to lean in to the conversation as well as understand that change is going to change. So you will have to pay higher taxes. You will have to keep up with the value that's going on in the neighborhood. Now, the twist of all of this with gentrification and the conversation with the developers are making sure that they are socially conscious about the communities that they go into to make sure that they are improving as well as interacting with the current neighborhoods to make sure that they are bonding and meshing together to create a viable community for everyone, and not just coming in and saying, we want to do raisins and potato salad, and that's what everybody's going to have to eat, and that's the end of it. You know what I mean? Like, you want to make sure you find out, how do they make their potato salad? Can we integrate having a level of their potato salad on some of our menus in our supermarkets, as well as introduce some other options? If they like them, we'll take them out and swap them out. But there needs to be a dialogue. And I also feel like there has to be a push not only for the community, but also for these developers to make sure that they are socially conscious and that they are speaking with the communities to make sure that they understand what they need. So we don't kind of have colonizers just coming in, making changes to stuff the way that they know or see fit for what that is.
Gotcha. Great stuff, Tracy. All right, so I'm going to say the benefits of gentrification is planning. I don't know if anybody has seen the Philly's 2035 plan. Everything is kind of laid out there. You know what's going to happen.
Correct.
Then the other point I would add to this, right, is that gentrification, if you're set up right, creates more opportunities for Black people to make more money. But they got to be on that vibe. I mean, when you look at our panel here, Tracy's heavily involved in real estate. Jimmy's involved in real estate. Malik's involved in real estate. When we look at many of the people that are in the audience tonight, I know Willard's here. Shout out to Willard. He's involved with real estate. All of us have been able to benefit from gentrification. So I want to say this though, right? Y'all actually are doing pretty good, because we thought y'all were going to be on fire when we saw this, right? We was expecting some kickback, but that just shows how much of thinkers you are, right? So when we look at these issues with our community, we want to be able to look at both sides of the coin and figure out how best we can benefit from a situation. Because guess what? Gentrification's here, and it's not leaving anytime soon. So the thing to do is now figure out how do we get involved so we can protect our people, right? Give them fair housing, give them quality housing. Because listen, there's a lot of trash contractors out there. Corey brought that up earlier when we was hazing Malik. There's a lot of trash contractors out here. Matter of fact, Malik talks about some of his problems with contractors on his IG feed publicly, right? So I'm not even outing him. He talks about that publicly. We've seen situations where contractors have not done the right thing in these newly gentrified homes. So, that's all I have for it. I do want to take one quick minute and share this. Corey, go ahead. What you got for us?
Yeah, I just want to say what my main problem with gentrification is. I didn't really bring this point up because I thought somebody else was going to bring it up, but I have to say it. My main problem with gentrification is that value is being placed on proximity to white, and so I had to say that. Now, you can move on.
Right.
I mean,
that's my main issue with gentrification. All the value is being placed on the proximity to whiteness.
I think that's a great point, Corey, because one of my favorite reporters, Michelle Singletary down at the Washington Post, just wrote an article talking about the difference in Black home values versus white home values. If you pick up a home and move it 20 miles west, east, or whatever area to a more white area, and it really could be the same home, same type demographic, just the majority of the population in one area is Black, the other population is white, and the whites tend to have a higher property value. I'm sure Jimmy sees that a lot. So let's check in with everybody.
I mean, I have thoughts on that too. That's because no, I was just gonna say I have thoughts on that too, but a lot of that is because we value ourselves based on our proximity, and we're still trying to I don't, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, have this magical integration where we'll be treated the same, right? As opposed to building our own and taking care of our own. You know, a lot of us are expecting things to go a certain way. I'll just put it that way.
Listen, we gotta be PC here, right? We home. The audience is home. I mean, I'm sure people are watching though. I think we all fresh as hell because the feds is watching, but I think we cool. But let's check it out. I wanted to show the 2035 plan real quick, but I'll say that for later.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I dropped the link in the chat too on the Facebook group. So for those people who need to see it.
Okay.
And those people who need to understand what that is, the city of Philadelphia has literally planned out their development across the entire city up to 2035. They literally tell you the entire communities and when they're going to do them to develop and change the grounds, put new rail systems. It literally itemizes it all the way out so you can understand what their growth project is for the city. So it's a blueprint literally for what change is about to happen.
Right. And this is what they want to happen. And they are incentivizing developers and investors to go into these areas.
Correct.
And some of these projects that they're showing, like Maplewood Mall, I had clients in Maplewood Mall. It looked nothing like what they're projecting. It's a great thing that they're doing it now. And, you know, Shelton and Green wasn't the worst area, but wasn't the best area either. Again, that's changing. Wayne Junction, which is kind of at the border of, if you're from Philly, you understand it's on the border of Logan and Germantown. Again, totally changing. And that development is going to change the entire landscape of that area.
Correct.
So, you know, I have a feeling that most major cities have something like this.
Correct.
I haven't had a chance to look it up. But listen, it would behoove all of us to at least know what's going on and know what's planned, so then we could plan ourselves accordingly to take advantage of these situations.
So to that point, I just want to clarify is that actually a lot of towns have it. I mean, most towns actually have a plan for how they're going to do their developments, what they're going to make as a priority. So just kind of, I mean, you can Google it for your area, or you can actually reach out to your township council or whoever is running your area, because again, it's not a secret. And I think a lot of people kind of think that it's a secret and they feel like, oh, I'll never know. It's like, no, you can find it out and you can learn about it. But also the question is, what are you going to do with that new information? Like, how are you going to execute on that new information? A lot of people, that's where we fall down, is that we learn it, even if we don't know it, then when we do learn it, we don't execute on it. So the value is lost there. It's kind of lost in you know, the minds of these Black geniuses out there, because there's plenty of things to be done that we can do, and we just don't know how to execute.
Absolutely.
And I also want to speak to like the fear of it. Like, there's so much fear in our community around change, around prices going up, around, oh, we got a Starbucks on the corner now. So now we have different cultures coming in, and people are now jogging and walking their dogs and different things. And it's just such apprehension to that instead of embracing it. And I'm not saying I don't understand the plight of people who, I agree with Kamari, who don't have a plan. If you have been living in a property that you have not paid any rent, it's been owned by your family, you've done nothing to update it, you have not prepared this property or your economic situation for any changes in the future, I understand why this could scare you. But these conversations and a lot of this stuff is helpful for you to be able to put together a plan to say, this is coming anyway.
So let me say this real quick. One of the benefits I feel potentially of gentrification, I have family members that lived in the projects. And when the projects were due to be torn down, they had to move. Now, let's back up a little bit, right? Give context. A lot of times in many of these places where we're seeing gentrification, you have generation upon generation of poverty, and there's nothing there to break that cycle. Now, again, I am not for, you know, a lot of the shenanigans that happen with gentrification, like the mortgage stealing. Like a lot of times we see people's mortgages stolen. People will go change deeds, but it's a big enough obstacle that it actually makes people's lives, makes people see change in their life. And now a lot of my cousins had to move and their whole mindset, and they're doing a lot better now.
Yeah. So I made a comment. I put a post up recently that said gentrification is what happens when white people need affordable housing, right? And so now if you're talking about like where I am in West Philly and Cobb Street, where the housing in Cedar Park was 150, 200, and now was 600, 700. So of course Cobb Creek is going to feel that pressure, but then we also have a lot of this this NIMBY stuff, like not in my backyard, to where there's neighborhoods and there's certain RCOs, registered community organizations, where they won't allow you to change a 2,500 square foot house and to break it down to apartments. And so when you rehab it, who do you think can afford to live there? It's going to be a wealthy person. It's not going to be but the cost of rehab, you already know who's going to go there versus making an affordable rent, right? Affordable housing. And it's just so counterproductive to the goal. And the politicians included, right? The politicians, they say all the time that they don't want to displace people. They were against gentrifications, but their policies say the total opposite. They make it more expensive to be a landlord. Listen, in this city, and I would think other ones, right? They make it even more expensive and more onerous to be landlords. And so the tenants are going to bear the brunt of those expenses. Not the landlord is going to have the headache. They have to follow regulations, but the tenants are going to have to bear the cost of those regulations, right? And so everybody is really accountable, for the changes. But what I'll say is this: in Philadelphia, probably most other cities, people of color still own the most valuable property as of right now, even though with all the changes. Brewerytown, a lot of changes, but there's still a lot of black-owned properties. Strawberry Mansion's on fire right now, mostly black-owned property. Kennington is going crazy. $500,000 in Kennington, a lot of black-owned, black and brown-owned properties. West Philly, black people still own the majority of properties in West Philly. So we're sitting on like the most valuable land. Like, but what do we do with it? Do we give it away do we just give it away for pennies because it's raggedy? Or can we put together some funds or put together a packet to make money with this property? Like, even if you do sell it, do you just don't buy Jordans with the bread? Even if you do sell it, don't trick the money up, which is very difficult. If you never had $50,000 before in your life, it's hard. You don't realize how fast it goes, right? And so once you get that, really reinvesting in to sell it and refinancing and understanding these things. But there really could be a lot of wealthy black people, a lot more wealthy black people just understanding how to make money through real estate and through the changing market.
I want to say this real quick. I want to give a shout out to Malik, because about a decade ago, Malik was sounding the bell, telling everybody to buy property, and he said that the trend is going that more people are moving away from suburbs into urban areas. I think a good example of that would probably be the white flight we experienced in Philadelphia, where a lot of white folks in South Philly moved to South Jersey, and then they wound up moving back because they couldn't afford the taxes. So shout out to Malik for that. Jimmy, you all right over there?
I think I'm good. Like,
it's just delayed a little bit.
I want to show y'all this real quick. I hate your shout out.
COINTELPRO got me, man.
Oh, okay. I wanted to. This is a real live example that Aisha Sheldon shared on her IG feed the other day. So she talked about how she worked in South Philly at like 13th and Wharton or 15th and Wharton, which was in an area that wasn't really popping. About 10 years ago, she said she bought it in 2011, $51,000. She put another $24,000 into it. So that's roughly $75,000, y'all. And today, roughly 9 years later, it's worth $270,000. And then if you look at the net rents collected, she got about 90 grand off of that. So not only did she get back the 90 grand from that covers her costs, right? Her build out and her acquisition costs. She's also experienced, property appreciation as well. So I just wanted to show that to everybody that You know, oh, and she owns a free and clear, by the way. So she says she's in the gravy stage. She's definitely in the gravy stage. So I just wanted to show that
because like that one of the reasons that like our whole organization exists is because of that. Because to Malik's point, we own the most valuable property in terms of its proximity to the central business district, particularly in Philadelphia, but across the country. You look at the properties that we own. The properties are all in beautiful places because they're always close to the central business district. A lot of congestion and things come with that, but at the end of the day, when you look at what gives property value, when you look at what gives land value, a lot of it is committed to business. So if you take Philadelphia, for example, and you look at the properties that we owned in North Philly, even in South Philly, they were always right there. So our central business district being Center City, one of them, our people own those properties, which is why a lot of what we always say is don't lose grandmom's house. We have to hold on to. So it's one thing to build wealth, but to have it travel from generation to generation is a whole different thing. And a lot of times we lose that wealth that we have built. But you know, it's going to take a lot of us understanding and appreciating what we already have, right? Because if we gentrify our own neighborhoods, nobody can come in and gentrify it. So one of the things that I've been telling people at this point for 2 decades, the way you start gentrifying your neighborhood is pick up your trash, right? It's so simple, but it's like the most revolutionary act that won't cost you anything, right? We could gentrify our own neighborhoods, and then this whole discussion looks different if we see the value. And then when you start talking about how our properties are valued versus how other folks' properties are valued, if we're doing business and we're transacting with each other, it doesn't matter what's going on with them, right? And we're building together. It's about seeing value we have, seeing value with each other, and you know, and start to build together in terms of what we do in business, what we do as a community. Because it's one thing to have an actual community and have a neighborhood; those aren't the same things. You know, we need more communities and less neighborhoods. And you know, I'll leave it at that.
No, those are bars, Jimmy. Those are bars.
So one thing I do want to point out though is that I personally don't think that we're ever going to have any conclusive legislation or anything, because people look at gentrification as more black or white, and it's really not. It's really more, you know, have and have nots, because white people are also being gentrified. White folk had Kensington, white folk had Fishtown. That wasn't black people down there, you know, and those poor white folks, they're elsewhere. You know, they are not the same place. It looks the same because of complexion, but those are different people down there. So I don't know where they're going, where they're getting pushed to. But it's not Kensington, it ain't Fishtown. I don't know where they're going.
All right. Well,
so I think that's a good point. I think we really need to. I'm sorry, Kamari.
No, go ahead.
I think it's really important that we talk about this is a socioeconomic issue and not necessarily that of race. And I think a lot of things that we have in terms of socioeconomics get confused with race, because so many disproportionately African Americans are on the lower end of the socioeconomic spectrum. But it's not always about money. It's not always about race. It's not always about race, because Malik makes a great point. You know, Fishtown and Kensington were predominantly white, and they're being moved out of their areas also. So I just think it's really important that we put it in perspective, because what happens is when we conflate race and socioeconomics, we really get some bad results, and we can't see where we can actually build commonalities. I know a lot of times we don't want to build commonalities, but sometimes you just have to. Because if everybody wants to push for fair housing on a socioeconomic level, it stops becoming about black and brown. It starts coming of, hey, I need fair housing. Hey, I need better housing. I need affordable housing. That conversation looks a little bit different. So
I would say this real quick before we get to the comments. Fishtown is definitely white, right? I used to manage some property in Kensington. There are a lot of areas in Kensington that are mixed, but they're all poor. So
right.
you know,
if you look at so in Philadelphia, the only areas that are diverse are the poorest and the wealthiest. That's it. From like around UPenn is very diverse because of UPenn. Other than that, Kensington, everywhere else in the city segregated.
Well, Mount Airy is pretty diverse too, but I know
that's correct. It is probably one of the most of the nation. It was listed as that.
Yeah, y'all West Philly folks don't like Uptown, so you know y'all gonna.
I don't
y'all
even go up there. I
hate
don't
on
even go up there. I don't even.
We don't
I
want you.
recommend
Stay
it.
home. Stay home.
Malik don't come on this side, man.
Nah,
He don't
nah,
come
nah.
on this
I
side,
don't
man.
consider
He
it.
stay out west.
All right, let's check it. Let's check it with the folks real quick, y'all. All right, Wayne Terry says benefits of tax abatement. So he's talking about the pros of gentrification, the benefits of tax abatement when real estate taxes account for more than 50% of the school's district budget. You're saying that's a benefit, Wayne Terry?
I got bars for that too.
Yeah, I was about to say we need to talk about that actually
Please.
before we move on.
What's
We
up,
talk
bro?
about it.
Oh
All right,
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Malik, go ahead.
Well, first of all, go ahead, Malik. Go ahead.
All right, so we were talking about the tax abatement. So if you look at the land that hasn't paid taxes in 20, 30, 40 years, and then to have somebody finally come and buy that land, the city collects all that back tax revenue, right? And then they collect the revenue of that land value. So the only abatement is on the improvement, and it's only 10 years. 10 years, go by like that. And then what nobody talks about with the abatement is how many thousands of houses have already had the abatement expire that are actually contributing to the school system. But without the abatement, you got to think that somebody like me with two young kids, if I think the millage rate here, I think before we talked about it, like being 1.4, like whatever it is, that means my taxes are more like $6,000-7,000 a year. Am I going to live in Philadelphia and pay $6,000 a year? Am I going to go to Jersey and go to one of the counties or better school districts pay that? So you're going to lose the tax bait with me. Then you have the wages being paid for people that's building that property. You have the realtor that's either selling it or that's listing that property. They all paying tax to the city. Home Depot or Lowe's, wherever you get your materials from, they're all paying taxes to the city. And then, like I said, 10 years is a very short time, but it'll be contributing. And now you have usable housing, and Philadelphia needs more housing. So there is incentive. And people think that developers have to be in this space. Developers can go anywhere where a check is. Developers here now, not even really mostly from Philly, so they can really pick up and go anywhere in the country. It doesn't have to be here in Philadelphia.
Right.
But
just to expand on Malik's point,
All
I'm
right,
coming right to you, Tracy. Hold on one second, Jimmy. I talked to an economist once, right? And he said for every $1 that's spent through abatements, you get $3 that come back in economic activity to the city.
Correct.
It's a no-brainer to me. The other thing I was going to say, and then I'll pass it to Tracy, is that I don't think people really realize just how destitute Philadelphia was in the 80s and the early 90s. So as Malik said, right, developers can go anywhere. How do you get them here? We have a lot of investors that come down from New York and Europe and other places. What makes them come here? You have to incentivize them. This is economics 101, folks, but a lot of times we're not having those discussions. That's why the Black Well Project, if I might say, is so important. But go ahead, Tracy.
No, I was just going to add to that point, definitely about every $1 spent for tax abatements does bring in $3 of economic activity. And I think people harp on the fact that in Philadelphia, the original plan for the tax abatement was 10 years. You literally only paying the taxes for the land on the property, not the improvement, which would result in most of these lower income or areas that were gentrified in the hood that people were not attracted to was a couple $100s. The concern with that is for you bringing in someone that could potentially be anywhere between $80K to $125K per person. So if it's two people, that's double that. So that's $250,000 in income that they bring home every year to buy that property and live there. And their tax base for 10 years might be $500 a year, but they're buying food, they're paying towards insurance, they're doing a lot of other things that they're paying, contributing to the community to build it up for 10 years. And then they get hit with the reassessment in 10 years, which that $500 actually was supposed to jump to $5,000, which now reassesses the neighborhood, all of the numbers. And this is the part that people a lot of times get freaked out about, is that, oh my God, my taxes are going to go up because of, these other people that are here, or the 10-year tax abatement will allow people to not contribute to the income for the school districts and different things because of the zip code. Newsflash in Philly, though, a lot of these non-performing assets is what they're called, and dilapidated properties and absentee landlords and properties that are disheveled, they're not paying taxes anyway. So you're turning a non-performing asset into something that is performing, and now you have bodies and income coming into the neighborhood that will have to be reassessed at some point. That's the incentive for the developer to come in to bring their product, and it's the incentive for the person who's buying it to stay. And all of this is helpful for movement of the economy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right,
So-
Courtney, you next.
Yeah, I'm gonna yield to Jimmy, and then I want to kind of tie up Jimmy's commentary. So I think Jimmy has a lot of value to add on this particular point. So I'm gonna give it to him, and then bounce back to me, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'll let her, clean up anything I'm getting ready to say crazy. But no, seriously though, Malik, as well as Tracy, made a lot of great points, but we have to look at things in its totality, right? So you already talked about how much tax revenue actually comes in. But first things first, the millage rate is 1.3998. And with that being said, we have an abatement. What you're abating is any improvement to whatever structure is there. So if it's a rehab, it's treated one way, it's new construction, is treated another way. But with that being said, that land, let's just assume that it's a new construction, that land could also be increased if you have an abatement, because something known as contributory value. When you build a new structure, so they build a new structure, say they build a 3-story building and it adds, several $100,000 of value. It doesn't mean that their taxes are froze even on that land. That land now is worth more because of the structure that sits upon it, because of its contributory value. Therefore, you're taking a non-performing asset, and in most cases, you're actually collecting revenue that you weren't collecting. You're collecting more revenue because it's going to increase the land value. It stays on for a 10-year period. And, some will argue this is good or bad. It adds value to the overall neighborhood. Actually, look at the data. I've literally looked at the data specifically in Philadelphia. It's a net positive. It's a net positive for the schools. It's a net positive for the communities in terms of revenue coming in. Now, what it does to us, from a social standpoint, that's a whole different discussion. But, economically, it's been a positive for a lot of reasons, but that's one reason. So think that this person just isn't paying taxes. Their taxes actually can go up because of contributory value to the land, even under an abatement.
No, that's good stuff, Jimmy. I'm glad you made that. Jimmy, can you do me a favor though? Can you explain to everybody what millage rate is? What does that mean?
Okay, so when you try to figure out what you pay in dollars and cents, there's a millage rate, which is determined at the county level, by politicians. That's applied to the value of your property to come up with in terms of what you pay in dollars and cents. Property's worth $100,000. You will multiply it by 0.013998. That's how you get the dollars and cents in terms of what you pay for taxes.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. All right, Courtney, coming to you next.
So Jimmy makes some really good points, and I think just to kind of to add to Tracy, Jimmy, and Malik's point is that one of the things in Philadelphia is that everybody seems to forget is that Philadelphia has a wage tax, and the wage tax is over 3%, which is actually more than what we pay to the state. So when you have people coming in that make more money, your tax base increases because they're getting taxed on their wages. So I think a lot of people just look at one thing without understanding the broader tax implications. And it's just very frustrating because it's like you see that little line that says Philadelphia on your paycheck or not. Even if you are a 1099 employee, you still have to pay to the city of Philadelphia that 3%, or else the city of Philadelphia will come knocking at your door. So that being said, is that, again, when we're looking at the economic value, there's always going to be more economic value than loss, because please understand, when we talk about these abatements, they ran the numbers early on when they decided what they were going to do about it, how they were going to move forward. So I think a lot of people feel like, oh no, they did this so that, so everybody can get rich. It's like, no, they said, what's the net positive over XYZ amount of time? And Malik makes a very valid point. I think the first abatement hit in 2005. So they rolled off in 2015. And one of the other things that I think is really interesting just about abatements in general is that these people will fight you over their land value. And how do I know that? It's because I spent time in court fighting people over their land value because they had an abatement. So for some people, it's just never going to be enough. They're never going to get enough value. You have a $400,000 home, $500,000 home, and you're paying $300 a year in taxes, and it goes up to $400,000 because your land value increases. And don't you know they're in court arguing over this $400? I mean, so I always found that interesting. So again, I think I get the bigger piece. And then, I think we also think about fear generally. I put in the comments, fear is false evidence appearing real. So a lot of people don't know what the abatement does in the long term. They don't know the social impact. So they fear it immediately. And it's like, well, my question is, people are looking at our neighborhoods to say, how can we extract value? I think we need to look at our neighborhoods to say, how can we extract value? And it should be kind of one of those positionings that way, as opposed to always somebody kind of coming in and landing and putting their hooks in us. So I think we should really just change the way we look at it and change the way we look at ourselves.
Right. And I think that really,
Hold that thought, Malik. Let's get into these comments real quick, y'all. All right, so we got Wayne, Bulletair. Adrian says gentrification is good because of the aforementioned reasons, but the con that I've seen, even with ownership, is increased taxes year after year.
Yeah, taxes got to increase.
Well, I'll say this as it relates to Philadelphia. I know Adrian's in Chicago.
Yeah.
Philadelphia's tax rate, its real estate tax rate, is way, way low in comparison to other big U.S. cities, and nobody really thinks about that.
Right.
But we also have a lot of tax support. We have the LOOP program, which is a long-time owner-occupant program that actually will help long-time owner-occupants to kind of reduce or keep their taxes relatively level. We also have the senior tax freeze. So there are, and then we also have, in terms of tax help, we also have the what's called a UPA, which is the owner-occupant. I forgot.
COINTELPRO was at work.
Oh,
she was rolled.
Yeah.
Yo, can I make a point that no one else made, even as we're going through these comments, is that the minimum wage and wages have been frozen. And so when you're talking about raising taxes on people with frozen wages, that seems like a tax increase, even though your property value is going up. And the only way to offset that property value going up and your wages being stable is to sell the property, because all of the money is inside the bricks. So that's the point about gentrification.
Specifically in Philadelphia.
Is because when you have stable.
Specifically in Philadelphia, that's what the loop is for. It's for long-term owner occupants, right? But that's why it goes back to ownership.
Loop and senior tax freeze definitely take care of some of these problems with people who have.
Some of it gets taken care of, but what I'm saying is in an overall general sense, that when you have sedentary wages, and then you have, because that's why Philadelphia has lots of $100,000 and $1 million earners, and is one of the poorest cities in the country, is because the average worker, their wages don't go anywhere. But then you're talking about building stuff around them that raises value, and then all of that seems to them like it's an increase on their standard of living and their lifestyle. And so that's what's happening to these people, and that's why they're being displaced. It's not because they're working for someone else and their wages are stagnant. And so all of this development around them seems like it's attacking them instead of building value for them. That's why it seems like an attack.
I'll say this real quick. Corey just said, wages are stagnant. They are. But we also have to look at education. Our workforce, our labor force has one of the lowest levels of education. We have one of the highest rates of dropout as well. And all of that plays a factor in wages being stagnant also. I mean, again, I'm not blaming, I'm not putting the fingers, I'm just looking at the facts and talking about them. I mean, again, Corey, your point is valid. But again, these conversations, y'all, are very nuanced, very complicated. They are not black and white. And we have to be, as a community, we have to be able to look at these issues, really work through the issues and say, all right, these are some of the solutions that we're able to come up with. Because if we wait for government to do it, it ain't going to happen.
Correct.
Right? And then we are always going to be on the short end of the stick. So, one of the hopes out of having this conversation is more of us can, one, start looking at gentrifying our own hood. I think Jimmy's point about cleaning up, it boggles my mind when I ride around Philly and I see people drop entire McDonald's bags. out of their car while they're moving.
Yeah,
Moving.
getting their car out. It's crazy,
Yo,
right?
I get irrationally angry. I get irrationally angry when I see that. Like I don't even want to talk about it because I'm getting angry now.
Right.
Yeah, it's
But
crazy.
it goes back to a lot of times the love. Like, in order for us to get better, we got to think better of ourselves. Again, we can't wait for some white savior to come in on a white horse and just deliver us to cleanliness and ungentrification or black gentrification. We're gonna have to say we got to do it ourselves. Sadly.
Right. And it has to be taught. It has to be passed down. Like, you have to be able to police your community on your block and block captains to say, hey, so-and-so, 1811, I need you to pick up your trash because your son keeps coming outside throwing stuff outside. Can you talk to him? And making sure that y'all have a community meetings and stuff to discuss that and make sure people aren't coming on your block dumping tires, dumping trash, different things like that. It just starts with your community.
So this is a good point Adrian brings up, right? The increase in taxes especially affect those who may have owned their homes for decades. Obviously, she's talking about the seniors, right?
Correct.
Some of the programs that Courtney talked about are very, very specific to Philly. I know we have a national audience here, but I would venture to say a lot of those programs are also available in other big cities around the country. Can't really speak to the suburbs and rural areas because Black people are everywhere. But I just have this feeling that a lot of this stuff is available there as well.
Right. But so some of the things like,
and if they aren't available, Kamari, that's their elected official. That's their elected officials' responsibility to make them available. So all I'm saying is when we elect people in these, and that's where accountability comes in.
Facts. Jimmy,
right. So I'm talking about it like Philadelphia is a little bit different than like in San Francisco, places like that. If you sell a building, you could just cancel a lease. Right. In Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, when you sell a property, the new owner has to honor whatever lease is. So they just can't just, put you out. At least they shouldn't just put you out. And most of the times, the tenants don't know the law. So they feel like, oh, my landlord's with the building, I got to move out. No, you still got a lease in place that protects you. So you're still good for the length of that lease, right? People in Pennsylvania don't know that. Most of the time they don't, right? But also, I want to make this point a while ago is if we own more businesses in the neighborhoods, then gentrification wouldn't be as much of a problem because now we have more people with money moving in to support the businesses that we own. But the ownership is really on our commercial corridors. A lot of the buildings aren't owned by us, but the businesses that are owned are mostly like barbershops, and hair salon or soul food spots, right? There's not really a lot of other businesses, Black businesses on these commercial corridors. Like what other services and goods can you provide, for the neighborhood? It's like in Jamaican restaurants are everywhere, but it's just that. So we have to bring more businesses so that gentrification will benefit us more.
Gotcha. All right, let's hop back into these comments real quick, y'all. Don't want to leave nobody out. Listen, if you are just now joining us, or you're watching the Black Wealth Project. The Black Wealth Project tackles all Black wealth issues, all Black money issues, all Black financial issues every Sunday at 7 p.m. So be sure to share this with some folks who are interested in seeing the rise of Black wealth amongst Black people in this country or anywhere else for that matter, and who are really interested in having a real conversation. Not a bunch of people arguing and screaming and acting like they ain't got no sense. All right, so Keenan Evans says if he calls people as a set of gentrified areas. I'm not sure exactly what you mean, Mr. Evans. Monica says poor residents that are homeowners can get displaced because the taxes increase. We had to put pressure on elected officials to put programs in place to protect owners. Fact.
So we do have programs. We have UPA. So I forgot what UPA stands for, y'all. I can't even remember. But it's the owner occupied payment agreement.
Yep.
Right. Right. But
got it. Yes. Philly. So, but we have UPA. So
but that's in Philly. I don't know what other areas have.
What did you say, Mike?
That's true.
But I think it's well. I mean, I'm only speaking of Philly, but I think it's really important to understand that. And then again, we have to be engaged with the voting process, and not just at the presidential or national level. You have to be engaged with your local politicians to make sure that your needs are being met. I mean, we live in a representative democracy. The people who are elected represent you. And if you as a community and a collective are having problems like that, then it's incumbent upon you for you to take your problems to them, for them to fix them or help you solve them. So I think that's the thing. I want to talk about Philly specifically, but just any other place, you guys have the ability to do that also. But I think we have to be engaged.
One of the things that I just want to just throw in really, really quickly to have the conversation. I was always brought up and taught that as a property owner, you are a shareholder in the community. So when you look at it like that, you already have a seat at the table because you're paying taxes and you're contributing to the ecosystem. So please don't think you have any problem walking into your elected officials, councilman, state rep, or anybody else and say, hi, I pay taxes at so-and-so and so-and-so address. I have an issue with X. I need you to help me because you work for the ecosystem that I pay a part of.
Facts.
But I do want to piggyback on that, Tracy. Renters have the same rights, right? They might not be paying real estate tax, but they're definitely paying wage tax. We're speaking of Philly right now. I know everybody doesn't have a wage tax. But, I know the stats show that renters tend to not take as much care of their property as homeowners. But I would say under these circumstances, we need to flip that script if it's possible at all. All right. So Willa says those Black investors who know and can make things happen have to enter into these gentrifying areas with a different approach in order to keep them Black, or at least have long-term Black owners benefit from the growth. Instead of buying them out low, approach them with a partnership plan. Yes, not always an easy strategy, but a potential power move that enables a Black economic growth potential. Shout outs to Willa for always being a progressive thinker. I agree with you, Willa.
Correct. Absolutely.
Willa comes with the fire. Thank you, Willard.
I refer those to you, Willard.
What are you saying, Malik? You ain't got time for all that?
Nah. Listen, that's why I like to buy vacant houses. I like to buy total shells. I don't like to displace anybody. Let me get that total shell that nobody's been thinking about for 30 years. Let me get that one.
Got you. All right. Kahan says one thing with gentrification I see is the ones who can see it coming, telling those who will be negatively affected to prepare them, and they dismiss it because their mindset is stuck in the present view of the neighborhood as it is. They can't see it until it is all the way materialized, but then it's too late. So he's talking about vision, y'all. We talking about vision.
Facts.
Correct.
Great point, Kahan.
And
that's a great point.
James Possible, city I have watched this happen, not actually understanding what I understand today. Gentrification, in my observation, is a very deliberate and slow process. What I have seen is the acquisition become one lot at a time, slowly isolating current residents. One by one, homes were being demolished. Unfortunately, there was an initiative only known by the planners and the money involved. Once there's sufficient ownership, the area was actually destroyed. Look at Oklahoma City's development plan, James. I'm sure there's something there. Oklahoma City is a big enough city to have some kind of development plan. And as Courtney mentioned earlier, even the smaller towns had development plans as well. So I'm sure Oklahoma City has something. So check it out. All right, Tracy put up Philly 25 or Philly 2035, excuse me. I would love for all of y'all to go check that out and just take a look at it. Tiffany says this is happening on the west side and south side of Chicago. Crime gets out of control and the price is cheap. The neighborhood prices go up and the people get displaced. We need fair housing. It's funny, right? I'm a big Shy fan. And they talked about in the Shy incentivizing gang members to commit random acts of violence in some of the south side areas to drop property values. I wonder if that ever really happens in real life. What do y'all think?
I don't know if that. Nobody, hey guy, go shoot somebody else. We have enough reason to shoot one another in these streets that we don't need to have people come and pay, But now bringing, drugs and crime and weapons into the area, like the legislation, yeah, but actually paying people to go commit those crimes, absolutely not. But
go ahead, Malik.
I did want to make though. Go ahead, you read that first.
No, go ahead, Malik.
So one point I want to make is that wasn't brought up is as a realtor, on my realtor hat, if I have someone that's pre-approved for mid-twos low threes. They not thinking about West Philly. Black people, they not thinking about Brewery Town. They move to the county. They move when they're trying to get to Mount Airy or 144, depending on who I'm talking to. Right? They just don't want to be in these areas. They're not willing to pay what the white folk coming to Cows Creek are willing to pay. Cows Creek is not even on their wish list. They want to give as far away from this as possible. You know, they're not moving to Brewery Town. They're not moving to Strawberry Mansion. The black people with money are gone. The white people will pay more for these houses. So you got to think about that too. Like there's one house in particular I had, my old house, I still rent now. When I market that property, I marketed, this is my 5th year having to market it. I've only had 2 black people even come to see it, to rent. White people, I have multiple offers from white people for this rental property, but I only have 2 black people even come to see it in 5 or 6 years. You know, so you can't blame gentrification or neighborhood changing if the people that can't afford it don't want it.
Gotcha. All right, let's jump into some more of these comments. All right, Adrian says that does not happen in our neighborhoods in Chicago. If you can no longer afford to live in the gentrified areas, see ya. Head out to the burbs. Okay, I had kickback in mind when I first saw this title. I wasn't ready. All right. Well, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Welcome either way.
Yes, welcome. Okay, James says he agrees with Corey. All right, Willis says I'm in potential black economic growth agenda, as this agenda thing is a major topic as of late.
Correct. It is.
They probably have numerous city council meetings on a plan like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they do, but they do it in advance. It's not that they ground is broke. Go ahead, Tracy. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say every community is required to have a city planning commission. It might be called something different in your neighborhood or in your township or in your state, but they are required to have it.
And they're also required to give, at least I can only speak for the municipalities planning code in Pennsylvania. That is what guides our community plans, but you're actually required to do a lot of notices about creating a plan like that. So they're because that whole reason for everybody to have the community to be aware, the community had input. So those are the things that happen. So yes, there's numerous meetings, but unfortunately a lot of people don't come because one, they really don't understand the impact. And I think somebody said it happens like bit by bit by bit. So you may not see the end result, but they told you 5 years ago it was going to happen.
Correct.
Right.
And if you were at the meeting, no.
Correct.
Facts. That's facts. What's about gentrification by adding value to homes also increase property taxes, which brings more funding to schools.
Correct.
Except I'm gonna say this part about the schools though. Do our schools really need more funding?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
How do you know?
Whoa.
Whoa. Yeah, we do.
No.
Yo.
Hold on. What I'm saying is,
I know where you're going with this.
What I'm saying is, when Janie Blackwell was a city council person, she did not vote to give any more money to the school district of Philadelphia because they would not tell council where the money was, where the money was being used. They wouldn't even tell council. So how do we know the schools need more money?
So that
I used to work in the Title IX office. I know where all the money went. They were stealing the damn money. But I'm telling you that the reason we need more money, we need more accountable adults. But because I worked in the Title IX office when Obama was sending millions of dollars into the city of Philadelphia. And we were notorious around the country when I would go to the meetings and they would say, damn, you work in Philly, they steal all the damn money. So everybody knew, except for the people, nobody was holding anybody accountable.
But that's my point.
Which was
that right there is my point. We don't know if the district needs more money or not because they won't even share the books with council.
But that's part of it. The other, hold on, y'all.
I can tell you that we need more money.
The other part is, Malik,
I can tell.
The other part is the state is not kicking in their fair share, which they're constitutionally bound by. So that's the other part of it that we can't leave out of the conversation as well. Courtney, were you saying something?
We need more
We need
teachers.
more
I
damn
think
teachers.
without having this conversation go way opposite way, I think we need a better way of educating people, students in general. We've been teaching the same way for 60 years, and so, we do need some innovation.
160.
Huh?
So yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
think
Courtney.
we have to clear up some bad facts, man.
Okay.
Bad
I
facts.
said 160.
First of all, I mean, I don't know about what's going on with the funds, but we can tell by the structures of the city of Philadelphia. We have some real serious problems. We have to update the schools. How you not have central air, y'all? How do your windows not open? Like there's some real serious structural problems with the buildings that we are housing our children. I mean, do we not remember Ben
I got
Franklin
you, Tracy.
in the program? I mean, they had a whole problem. I mean, and I'm not really sure that the asbestos issue was abated. So yes, they do need more money. To Kamari's point, the state is not kicking in what they're supposed to. We have a lot of different kind of only property taxes are not the only thing that actually goes into the school district's pot. There's a lot of other taxes, the plethora of taxes that the city of Philadelphia levies on its wonderful business owners that actually goes to the school district too. So I think we have to be very clear about what the school district is receiving from all aspects. And again, maybe we should change the model of where the school district's getting their funding. Maybe property taxes, maybe not the complete way, because again, that means that your zip code determines the amount and the quality of your education, and that's not fair.
Right. So I'm moving on to Tracy, but I do want to say this real quick. I do think everybody, when I say body, like an organization, should be transparent. And to Malik's point, Philly School District has not been transparent at all. So I just wanted to say that. I just want to say that.
I do not disagree with that at all. They weren't transparent, which is why they created the office that I worked in to go find the damn money.
I want to add a very poignant point that I always bring up whenever we discuss the school district, because I feel like people forget about this conversation and everybody's like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It is that big of a deal, especially being someone who is in real estate and is working with development companies. The school district currently has, I'm looking at the website now, 8 vacant, dilapidated schools that are sitting on the market that have not been earmarked for development or actually under contract to sell. The only 2 schools that actually have been committed, the school district made $65 million on the other buildings to combat deficit. We still have 8 properties that are dilapidated, one being Pepper Middle School that I ride by all the time, that is literally sitting on almost 4 acres of land with 3 structures of buildings that could generate revenue and could create a community relationship to add extra money into the pocket of the school district as well as resources for the community. And they are sitting there with no plan, no development, and the school district is literally just looking at it like, we want what we want for it. But meanwhile, we're broke.
Right. But to that point, Tracy, I agree with everything that you said. Only problem with Pepper is in the flood, like Pepper is a bowl. And so it was under contract with the housing. The Housing 30 was going to buy Pepper. But because it's in the floodplain, they weren't, and it was built over a toxic dump, right? So you can't put housing there. But then it could be sold and it could be redeveloped. And actually, I think the RDA did put out an RFP for Pepper. So, but no, I had been sitting there for what 10, 12 years in that state. And I actually worked in Pepper when I was a teacher for that quick 2 years.
So what is RDA?
What
is RDA? Let people know what RDA is.
The Redevelopment Authority. So they put out RFP, a request for proposal for developers to build. But like I said, what happens with Pepper is when it rains, all that water and all the debris from all the industrial area really feels like a bowl on that land. So you really can't do housing. It could be something else, but housing wouldn't be it. But no, 100% agree. But ultimately, the school district, and I just want to bring that to the point. We know that the schools are dilapidated. We know that some money could be going there from our taxes, but to Janie Blackwell's point, how can she agree to give them any more money when they don't have any accountability of what they're doing with it? But that was it. So they probably do need more hundreds of millions of dollars, but why are they not willing to at least show that? Open the books. Show that. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Show
And,
the money.
I don't absolutely disagree with you. And just to piggyback on that conversation about Pepper, the city of Philadelphia has access to federal funds that can also pull in the Army land study to be able to create gradients to fill in that bowl, and they can actually use tax credits to do it under the agricultural law, but they're not pulling the trigger on it to do it because it doesn't behoove anybody in the school district just sitting on their hands. But I digress.
All right, so listen, y'all see we get a little spirited up here. You're watching the Black Ball Project. We are on every Sunday at 7 p.m. In the interest of time, let's get through these comments so we don't keep folks here all night. Kavet, is gentrification just another way of saying Black people being behind the curve of change and progress? It's not just a Black thing, though. So you do see gentrification everywhere, as Courtney and Malik brought up earlier. Kavet says, from a West Coast perspective, would the panel considered Hispanics buying a property and changing the dynamic in the neighborhood gentrification? I would say no, but I don't know what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's changing the socioeconomic character of a neighborhood. That's anybody can do that. That's what it is, and it's displacing the current poor residents. We looked at the definition. It doesn't say who the actors are. It says that it's looking at the socioeconomic aspect, so it could be anybody.
Yeah, but when we look at the data, Hispanics typically don't have more money than Black folks, so I wouldn't say that.
Right? He said
middle class moving in.
He said buying a property and changing the dynamic is that gentrification. Well, yeah, I mean that's what they're doing. That's the definition.
Well, I'll say this. I think the supply and demand component of it definitely will push up property values. I don't know if it will push up property values as much as some other white folks coming into the area, but I do have to yield that. You got more people vying for the supply in the neighborhood, so it definitely would change that. All right, so James says, I agree with Malik, at least in the form of what I have experienced, and more about a newer demographic, as he says, a white demographic. Okay. Willard comes in. Tracy, I remember sitting in my first duplex years ago, reading the city plans for West Philadelphia, particularly University City. Yes, it was all there. Penn actually described the housing as large 3-story twins that could be converted back to single houses with in-law units, as many as 3 to 5. And they hooked up with the area banks and realtors and rolled out that buying program like a new housing development as more so. Yeah.
Correct.
And Penn actually incentivizes their employees to buy in the area as well.
Yes, they do.
Gives them some type of housing benefit. I don't know exactly what to call it.
And they've actually moved up their boundary line, which used to go back to like 38th Street, probably in the 90s. It's now at 52nd Street.
So that's a bigger pool of buyers coming into the community, pushing up property values. Gotcha. James says, what they say is different from what they do. Well, I would agree with that too, because nobody's holding them accountable. And the they I'm talking about is politicians and elected officials in these areas. Don Johnson, gentrification gets a bad rap because most times we don't have our hands in the pot when it starts to happen. I agree. Community meetings and political elected official meetings are very important. All right, like this video, family. I appreciate that, Alton. Listen, everybody like it. Everybody share it. Everybody make sure they put comments in it. We are fighting the algorithms. The algorithms don't want us to be great, y'all. So help us be great. All right. Most landlords don't want their investments value to stagnate. No, they don't. Good point. The White says there's 400,000 homes in my old neighborhood, on my old neighborhood block. It stands out like a shining thumb. New symbol.
Where is that? Where's that? The White? Where is that?
It's either South Philly or Southwest Philly. Where are you talking about, Dwight? Throw it in the chat. Throw it in the comments. So James Possible says, my first question is, do those Black owners actually understand what is happening? Education is huge.
Yep, we do.
What owners are we talking about? The ones that have owned and stayed in the community and lived there and they're looking around and watching all this stuff happen? Or the people who are coming into the community who are Black, who are developers and who are making a change?
So I would say those who are there now in these areas that are changing, the majority of them probably don't know what's going on.
Correct.
Or really, or truly understand the extent of what's going on. Those that are moving in totally understand, no matter what color they are.
Correct.
All right, great distinction, have versus have nots. Absolutely. Well, Courtney's not here. I think she's having some internet problems. Oh, here she is. She's back. So Courtney got some. Come on, Courtney. We're gonna work through it. Come on, we're gonna work through it. It's all right. So you got some kudos there.
Because but I mean, to that point, and I think we don't talk about it enough, is that when I was living in West Virginia, it changed my perspective about socioeconomics and race, because I was listening to people telling me stories. I was like, I've heard this story in Philly before. I just got changed the names. And it's the same kind of story about police interactions, about so many different things that I attributed to just being Black. But it's actually a function of socioeconomics. But unfortunately, they kind of go like this all the time. But it really changed my perspective on money, and that's kind of why I always had that conversation. Not to say that being Black is a problem in and of itself, the way we interact with governmental affairs. But I think again, you know, being poor. I mean, I think Corey asked the other day, like, who's more hated, the rich people or the poor people? And resoundingly, we all said poor people, because that's a real thing. Like,
Damn, she was on a roll.
Pro got her again.
Yeah. On her head tonight.
Yeah.
All right, so Willard says very true, Malik, about Fitchtown, Port Richmond, and Kensington being poor white, but still the same race does factor in, however, in a different way. One is property values and overall blight in those white areas.
Definitely blight.
Jay Johnson says, "What's up?"
What's up, brother Jay? That's our partner at DYO.
What up, Jay?
That's the guy out in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I saw that episode.
Yes, sir. He out there giving away land.
Yeah. All right, James says this is a great discussion. So much knowledge. Appreciate it. Yes, James, thank you so much. If y'all really appreciate it, share us out. Share us with somebody who's trying to get a better understanding about Black wealth and trying to achieve greater values and amounts of Black wealth as well. All right, Monica says the abatement program started in 2000. Okay, so I think she's saying that to say that the phase out part probably didn't happen until. No, I think
she was correcting me. No, she was correcting, because I think I said 2005, but I think the current abatement program as it stands right now, I think started in 2005. But I know that from a tax perspective, but I mean, if you're in another aspect of the city, I don't know. But that's what I recall from my tax records. So
okay, all right. Wayne Terry says
it did start. I know I'm mad delayed, but it did start in 2000, because they started falling off in 1010, and that was a point that I think one of you guys made about how many have already fallen off. But you know, some and the current abatement, that the way it stands isn't even like really 10 years anymore. Like, it's falling off like a sliding scale now, so it's actually changed. Well, after this year, it will. So it's not even the same abatement that many
they put a hold on that.
I was about to say. They put a hold on it. They haven't made the change.
Did they put a hold on it? I know the folks in City Hall was fighting over that.
They was, but it's a hold right now, so it's still a full abatement for anybody who applies right now.
Okay. All right. So Wayne says, I was talking about the disadvantage. I understand that the abatement has grown the city. Why not cut the years of the abatement if the school funding wasn't tied to it? No issue. Because I don't really feel so. All right, I want to say this right. We're talking about two different issues. We're talking about the city's growth, Philadelphia's growth as it relates to abatements, and then we're also talking about the Black community and how they are being affected, or how we are being affected, right? And I notice a lot of times people have a hard time separating the two and analyzing the two. So abatements are still really good for the city. The city still really has old housing stock. There's still a lot of abandoned properties. I'm probably not the person to talk about this. Malik, Tracy, Jimmy, or even Courtney, you're probably better to talk about this. But I still see it as a need to grow the city. I mean, it really pisses me off that we still are portrayed as the best thing between New York and DC, right? So how do we become number one? Because all of these metropolitan areas are still competing. Like, everybody's competing to be the best. And I want Philly to be the best. And in order to get the best, you got to recruit people to be the best.
Or educate people that are here to be the best.
That's fair.
So I would say they already have access to be educated now, and a lot of them don't take advantage of it. And I know that might sound elitist. That's not the way that's not how I want it to be. But Listen, people have to take steps to do things. Everybody, why is the dropout rate almost 50% in high schools? Now we know there's a lot of socioeconomic issues. People don't have food. People don't have certain things. People don't see value in it. But until we can really get a handle around
central air.
No central air. No, you're right about that. Listen, I went to FLC. FLC recently got closed because of asbestos. FLC always had an asbestos problem back when I was in school in the 90s. So, I get that too. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed Monica's point. Tax rates are determined by the officials we elect for city council. The value is one thing, but the taxes are impacted by city council members. Tax. Monica says loop is for long-term owners. Homestead is for owners that don't qualify for loop. Homestead was recently increased to $45,000.
Correct.
All right. Courtney said facts. Jimmy Kamari. I'm not sure what that was for. Great points on wages. You want to clarify for us, Courtney?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, we did something good, Jimmy.
We always
All
speaking facts, man.
James says it's crazy. My wife has to calm me down when I see someone throw trash out of a car. Yeah, man, it's pretty bad. Serious pet peeve when they're dropping your trash. When I was a cop and saw it, I would stop them and make it pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the comments just jumped on me again. All right, that's powerful, Tracy. As a property owner, you have an interest share in the community. Yep.
Correct.
Yep. Willard is pretty brilliant. Check out the episode of Willard on By the Hood podcast show. Y'all did that last week, a week and a half?
Yeah,
that was about a month ago.
Okay. So Devon says, what do the actions of socially conscious real estate developers look like? Well, Willard just kind of said one, right? He proposed that we do partnerships with some real estate owners, with some homeowners, instead of trying to buy everything on a super low, create partnerships. I think that's a great socially conscious way of doing things. Mm-hmm. Anybody else got anything on that? I think that's a great point to expand on.
Yeah,
I mean, it's tough. I mean, I don't. If you would consider the way I do things, or only buying vacant, like the properties, socially conscious. I mean, I think I would, because I try to, like I said, I try to buy vacant properties. I don't go to the auction, try to buy a house, or go anywhere try to buy a house, and then get somebody out. I'd rather just buy the one. Like in fact, recently I just bought a burnout. I had a fire. Everything is collapsed. I'll take that over something where somebody is in there and can't go anywhere, do anything. That's my thing. But I don't know. It's a tough spot.
Gotcha. Anybody else have anything on that one?
Yeah. One of the socially conscious developers I always like to highlight is definitely my bosses, Leslie and Greg with Mosaic Development Partners. They are huge on social equity and making sure that the community is involved. 90% of their projects are literally for the community first, and then value for them as a developer later. And they've definitely just recently done projects that are in the fold for the Naval Yard. They just broke ground on the project for PHA in Sharswood for their new community. That's going to be several apartments. It's going to be senior homes. It's going to be townhomes, all those things. But honestly, this work is taxing. It's not easy. It's not easy working with these professionals, these elected officials, and the powers that be that really, really don't want to cut the breaks and the tax credits that's needed to make sure that the housing is affordable. So definitely got to get these other communities involved with voting and talking to their elected officials to make it easier for people like Mosaic Development to do their job.
Gotcha. Good point, Tracy. All right, as we continue on, Don says white people build a whole platform / internet community teaching how to gentrify our neighborhoods. What's that, Don? Malik, what are you saying? We addressed that already. They cover for you, Malik. They cover for you. Don, can you share that website? It ain't right that teachers are actually having to use part of their salary to acquire school supplies for their students. I agree. That's a different show altogether, though, but I definitely agree with that. Oh, bigger pockets. There's a blacker pockets though, right? I believe there's a blacker pockets out there, isn't there, folks?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So listen, let's not promote them. Let's promote us. All right. Yeah, more school funding that the charter schools killed. I don't agree with that, Wayne. The money follows the kids. I know some people don't like charter schools, but the public schools wasn't getting it done the way some people thought it should be done. The state doesn't help. They want to pay their fair share. The districts lost students. But the student, never mind, y'all. I'll be here all night on that one. Malik, when I
you
brought
got
my
beef with the state, Malik, you got some static. You got some static with the state.
Who me?
all right, let's get to this.
I'm sorry, I mean say Malik. I mean Kamari, because Kamari keep going in on the state.
No, I'm reading the comments. I'm just reading the comments. So, but yeah,
No,
I mean,
I know that, but I'm talking about like some of the things you're saying.
What? Like what? What did I say?
Just about the state in general. Like several times this evening, you've been mentioning like how the state is ducking their obligation, and you sound like real spicy when you talk about the state. Like maybe they took some bread from you or something. Like you got some beef with the state.
Well, listen, Ubuntu, right? What affects one affects the other. So when they take money from Philly schools, that affects the majority of black children. Yeah, they taking money from me. That's the way I feel we have to approach it. But all right, Bullet says, Malik, when I brought my 2 properties through Penn program, I couldn't convince one black employee I knew to buy in University City. They rushed to new developments in Dell, Jersey, and the burbs. When the market crashed, they lost thousands, some hundreds of thousands. University City never lost value. Now 70K properties are valued 500K plus, and we got into these homes with 105% financing, 15% grant, 15K grant on top, plus a top rated K through 12 school.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, agent says, I know there's a fair amount of shadiness in every city, but Chicago is crooked as hell. Well, they say Chicago and Philly's politics are very similar. They may not hire gangbangers to kill in order to scare residents and make them move, but they will surely allow crime to flourish. We live in some of the most valuable neighborhoods, so I don't put anything past anyone, from some police officers who don't consistently respond to calls to aldermen. Aldermen are like city council people here, taking under the table deals, and who has investments or obtain contracts for development companies. Adrian, you make a point. All right, Dwight was talking about South Philly. SP, that other city we was talking about a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, Grace Ferry going crazy.
All right. Yes, Tracy, the older homeowners.
I figured that's what you meant.
Join the A-List TV. How you doing? Welcome. I don't think I've ever seen you here before, so welcome. We appreciate you being here. Atlanta to Baltimore here, almost every house I've ever brought, the neighbors told me that I had wasted my money. They can't see it. So he's speaking about vision. Kamar, your comment on the dropouts was concerning. I just had a conversation with a teacher. She broke her 8 years of teaching in the inner city. Education was not enough. They had to literally make a choice to support the children holistically. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. Well, it says partnerships also leads to educating. People want to develop their properties, inherit it, but don't know how. We can step in, clean up titles, and bring up values.
Correct.
I'm gonna give you all them bills. All them ones I get, whatever, we'll call you. You can have them. You can have every last one of them.
All right. So James says charter schools definitely have a place. And listen, charter schools aren't perfect, y'all. So I wasn't trying to say charter schools are perfect. I'm just saying I think it's unfair to ask a parent to wait for their children to sacrifice not having good schooling for a generation. Nobody ever talks about that. But listen, y'all, we had a very spirited conversation about the benefits of gentrification. So we appreciate you all being here. But before we roll out, we want to talk about our Black icon of the week. So Tracy, that's on you this week, right?
Yep. Okay.
Right.
So this week, the Black icon I've chosen is Shonda Rhimes. Ooh. For those of you who don't know Shonda Rhimes is the showrunner, creator, head writer, and executive producer of the following television shows: Grey's Anatomy, Private Practice, Scandal, and she's also the executive producer of the ABC television shows Off the Map, How to Get Away with Murder, The Catch, and Station 19. I want to give the flowers to Miss Shonda because she was recently in the news for her spirited discussions with ABC and a lot of the conversations regarding her, I wouldn't say tumultuous relationship with them, where she was always pushing back over budget, over content, ad star series of her show. And there was an issue with some Disney World or Disneyland tickets with her and her family that they couldn't comp her for, even though she's made Disney over $2 billion with her connection with ABC. And
How much were the tickets?
They were $156 a piece, and I believe there were 4 for her kids and her nanny.
Hey, say where his comment was, Tracy. Say what he told her.
He told her when he called her manager spoke to her on the phone and told her, you make enough money, you should be able to afford to buy tickets.
And wait a minute, how much money has she made for them over the years?
$2 billion for Disney, and I believe it is $65 million directly to just ABC.
So they lost potentially $2 more billion in revenue over $156.
Over respect is the difference.
Correct. It was she definitely stood on her conversation about she should not have to pay for tickets to an organization that she has made billions of dollars for, and all she wanted to do was just take them to go have a good weekend. So I give all respect to Miss Shonda. Sometimes you got to let it go. Sometimes you got to walk away. You got to go to where you are celebrated and not where you are tolerated. And she now has a new $150 million deal with Netflix that she will now be creating, I believe, is 6 new series with them. Let's go.
And so to Malik's point, I wasn't talking about from Shonda's perspective. I'm talking about from ABC's perspective, because they just let it go over $156. And to me, the ROI on that is definitely upside down.
Correct. Upside down. Always upside down.
All right, folks. As we come to a close, does anybody have any closing comments for the night?
Yeah, I wanted to get the first Black Wealth Project timestamp, please, for this. Right now,
is this a David Ruffin moment?
Listen, I'm creating something new right now. I got a timestamp moment. I'm just telling our listeners, I'm not talking about Chicago because I love Chicago and this opportunity, but Detroit is about to roar back. Baltimore about to really go crazy again, and South Memphis. That's the real estate coach Carter call for the upcoming decade. Detroit, more Baltimore, and South Memphis. Pay attention to those 3 markets. Get you some.
I agree with that.
Okay. All right. Well, here I want to highlight this comment before we check out. We need to hit that church conversation soon, especially with so many who are open, who aren't open. Are that many needed? Can they combine? Are they pouring back into communities? Are they educating the congregants on finances, home buying, career services, etc.? Or are they leeching in the name of the Lord?
Oh goodness.
So y'all still feeling that smoke Corey brought a couple episodes ago when he talked about
I'm gonna tell you like this, man. If you in love with the Lord, you don't want me on this episode.
Oh Lord.
All right, so listen.
I'm gonna set this shit on fire.
All right, so before we check out, y'all tell us what y'all want. What do y'all want to see next episode? Y'all want the church episode next episode? Y'all tell us what y'all want.
Did everybody get their books? Did everybody order their books? Powernomics?
Oh, great point. Yes. Remember, we are also doing a project. It's a group project. We are all reading Powernomics. Where's my copy at? Courtney's back.
Man, I can quote that. I can quote that thing like some of y'all folks quote the Bible. So, I'm looking forward to that episode. But I think the folks out there that are watching, I want you guys to get a copy of Powernomics as well, so you can participate with us on our Powernomics show.
Right, that's the homework, y'all. Remember last week we mentioned it. Get the Powernomics book. Make sure y'all read it, or at least get through it as much as possible. Make sure you buy it from Powernomics.com. If you can't get it from Powernomics.com, please go to a black bookstore. We don't want to order that book from the folks.
I know. Last week somebody posted that Hakeem's has it and stuff.
Okay. All right, we need a church episode. Melanie Allen says we need a church episode. James says I agree. Corey, open the conversations, and I agree with him. Yes, it's a book. Powernomics is a book by Dr. Claude Anderson. He worked in Florida and in the White House as well. It's a book about designing the Black Power movement for us. I think I got the title wrong. Jimmy, do you have the exact title?
Of what? Of Powernomics?
Yes, sir. There's a subtitle.
I mean, oh, you look. Oh, the National Plan to Empower Black America.
Oh, thank you, because I jacked it up. I didn't want to disrespect the book. All right, so listen, everybody. Appreciate you all. Tune back in next Sunday, 7 p.m. Same time, same place. Listen, do us a favor. Also, share this out with someone who is interested in creating a better wealth situation for themselves, their family, and their community overall. Again, appreciate you all, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Peace.